Patty Olinger joins us right now. She's a specialist in infectious diseases that we lean on because one of the things that we wanted to find out is, where are some of the germiest places that we associate? Because now in this age of COVID, it feels like, Patty, we're all worried about touching elevator buttons or doorknobs or handrails or things like this, but they're not necessarily the most dangerous spots, are they?
It probably depends upon the location and how many people have been in that location. But you're absolutely right. You touched on something, and no pun intended. It's those touch points that people are grabbing, and it might be right after they sneezed or something and they hadn't washed their hands yet.
All right, so give me some sense of, like, in your vehicle. Because we spend a lot of time in our cars. There's a lot of folks who are this morning driving into work. Are there points of the vehicle that are more of an issue, and how does it compare to like other areas that we associate with being unclean and that we deal with every day?
There was a recent United Kingdom study that actually went out and they took swabs from a car, several different spots in the car, and then the toilet seat. And they found that there were a lot of spots in the car that were actually dirtier, or I guess you might say more contaminated with bacteria than they did on that toilet seat. And if you think about it, I mean, how many times do we really go out and clean our cars? And then hopefully we're more routinely cleaning, our toilets. And it just kind of points out, and especially if you have kids, or animals, it's one of those things that they bring in things on their feet, on their hands. They spill milk sometimes, or Cheerios, or whatever.
Goldfish. Our car was full of goldfish all the time. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah, so it just breeds, that opportunity for more bacteria growth.
Patty Olinger with us, infectious disease specialist, and we're talking about where the germs are. Hey, Patty, let me just ask you this: the more we try to stay healthy by not touching, does that also hurt our immunities towards things to where we'll get sick easier?
Yeah, that's a really good question because you could take it to a point where you have a sterile environment, and we'll never get to that point. But there is that fear that you're not sending your kids out into the play in the dirt basically and getting exposed to just that natural immunity, building up that natural immunity. And so I understand people's concern, but when we're looking at what we're doing now and what we're promoting is, first of all, we have a tendency to clean for, does it look nice and does it smell pretty? And if it does, then we stop. The fact is that sometimes we may do that. Think about somebody like a restaurant table. They spritz and spray and then they wipe, but they aren't really doing anything sometimes because they're not giving the right amount of time on that table.
I got to admit to you, the last time something looked good and smelled pretty, I married it. So,
well, that's a good point.
There you go.
Those touch points are really where we need to be focusing on right now.
If you think about it, Patty, you talked about how your car can be one of the germiest places around, maybe even worse than your toilet seat. I mean, I guess there are areas, like our work area, your keyboard of your computer. We don't always think to clean that, and that gets a massive amount of touches, throughout the day.
Oh, absolutely, and especially if you have a shared station as well. We've done sampling where you've done what they call ATP sampling, and we found higher levels of contamination, of dirtiness, you might say, on those, unlike a keyboard. Your cell phone, cell phone can be filthy.
Yeah.
So if you have a wipe, a sanitary wipe, or, as far as cloth, it's probably a good idea to occasionally wipe off your phone. How many times have all of us dropped it somewhere?
If we didn't check it, with our antibacterial wipes and things like that, would bacteria take over the earth?
Well, some might argue that they already have, if you really understood how many little bacteria are out there.
Right.
And the cool part about it is there's a lot of good bacteria. I mean, I think that's the one concern that some people have is that there's good bacteria that are out there on a day-to-day basis. There's even good viruses out there that we want in the environment, but that, they get killed or deactivated just like, the bad bacteria too.
What are the new spring colors for hazmat suits?
Maybe a light yellow or pink or something like that.
Okay, good. Very good.
All right. Thank you very much, Patty Olinger, for joining us here with an update on what we're experiencing in the bacteria world, Hal.